Welcome, everyone, to the 2019 recognition ceremony of the New School for Social Research. I am honored to represent this institution as we confer our highest degrees on this remarkable group of scholars. Thank you to the brass trio. Let me extend a particularly warm welcome to our graduates, families, and friends. We have really a large group. We're very pleased about that today. Those who are with us today and those who aren't, we know that earning a graduate degree is a collaborative project involving a whole team of classmates and colleagues, families, and friends. I want to thank those of you who have encouraged and supported our graduates in this arduous endeavor and enabled their success, which we celebrate today. And in celebrating them today, we are also honoring those that are close to us. Those who are with us today, those who can't be with us, may I ask our graduates to please stand and turn around and to express as loudly as you can your appreciation for those who supported you in this day. Thank you. Thank you. I want to also welcome tonight our distinguished faculty, staff, and Board of Governors. It's the faculty's scholarship, their deep commitment to teaching and research that give the New School for Social Research, and really the entire New School, its intellectual purpose, its direction, its vigor. Our faculty put their hearts into training the next generation of thinkers and doers. They bring creativity and expertise to their seminars, to their lectures every week. In the past 3 years alone, our 75 professors published 50 books and more than 100 scholarly articles. In the past 2 years, our faculty have done the following: been knighted by the French government, earned membership in the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, a Carnegie Fellowship, numerous fellowships at Princeton's Institute of Advanced Studies, honorary degrees in Germany and Mexico. They've delivered keynote speeches in Japan and England. They have lectured on radical democracy, contemporary feminism, open borders, Chinese civil society, the illiberal turn in the politics of Poland, Brazil, and the United States, parent-child attachment and trauma, and the global response to the new flood of refugees. They have been featured in leading media outlets, speaking on issues of populism, economic inequality, the legacy of Greek antiquity. In the last 3 weeks alone, 2 of our faculty members have written articles that were featured in the New York Times Sunday Review. What you don't know is that graduation is not just for families, it is also for the faculty. And that's because your success is our success, and working with you is truly a gift to us. I would like to ask everyone to please give a warm round of applause for our faculty who make all the difference in the world. So pursuing a graduate degree is always challenging. Being a graduate student in New York City is particularly so, given the many distractions of this great city, the expense of living in New York City. Embarking on a graduate study is a commitment to forego the luxury of spare time while you work and get a degree. It's a commitment to live in strapped circumstances for years while your friends and acquaintances all around you seem to have real jobs. It's a challenge to explain to those around you exactly what you're doing and why, and even to come up with that good one-sentence summary of your work that is meaningful to others. Amidst all this, what's really been heartening, moving for us, for me, has been to see the depth of commitment among the students and faculty to a set of ideals of what a progressive university, a new school, can and must be. In your time at the New School, you not only studied and prepared for class, wrote papers and exams, you also battled to improve the lot of graduate students by demanding better fellowships, funding, and work agreements. The fruits of your efforts will most significantly benefit the students who come after you. But I thank you. Thank you. You are the centennial class, graduating in this momentous 100th year of our university. You are sitting today in this wonderful, historically landmarked auditorium designed for the original New School with its egg-shaped ceiling, considered by many really to be an ideal example of modernist architecture. I can really think of no better place to recognize this special class. So birthdays are fun, 100th ones especially, but what really are we celebrating here? The New School for Social Research was founded in 1919 as an, quote, independent school of social science. The idea was to break away from traditional constraints of academe and even from a traditional type of student. The ambition was great, to create a space for freedom of thought and learning that would build deep knowledge of social processes, to infuse the social sciences with a sense of social purpose. In June 1918, as the dark period of World War I was coming to an end, the newly founded magazine, The New Republic, announced a school for social research proclaiming that, and I quote, "There is a huge volume of social aspiration and purpose in the world which is enfeebled in its expression chiefly because of the lack of an adequate technique. If the School for Social Research is to prevail, if even it is to survive, it must elaborately prepare a counter-social offensive against the existing kingdoms of particularism and class exclusiveness. It must study social processes and problems as exhaustively and concretely and as practically as physical and biological processes have also been studied. In this way, the new school would have an unpretentious but substantial advantage over its competitors. Its singleness of purpose would save it from merely duplicating the departments in our existing universities, which are already studying the same subject matter," end quote. These are the ambitions, the very ambitious foundations on which our new school was formed 100 years ago. We tend in this room at the New School for Social Research to think of 1933 and the university in exile as our legacy of the New School for Social Research. In many ways, 1919 is more relevant to us today. 1933 was radical geopolitically. 1919 was radical politically for what it meant in terms of the goals and methods of learning and knowledge. And it's this legacy, Dewey, Beard, Veblen, many others, that inspires us today to redefine categories of knowledge, to connect academic disciplines in new ways, to seek radical solutions to social problems. And it is you, the class of 2019, who carry this tradition forward. As philosopher Michael Novak writes, "Tradition lives because young people come along who catch its romance and add new glories to it." So we begin our program tonight with a faculty address, and I'm very pleased to welcome Ann Stoler, the Willy Brandt Distinguished University Professor of Anthropology and Historical Studies and Chair of our Anthropology, to deliver our first ever faculty address. Ann.
So, what a delight to be here. It's an enormous pleasure and privilege to be giving this year's New School for Social Research graduate address. It's 15 years since I first came to the NSSR, and it's never ceased to hold me to its amazing grace as a hub of intellectual energy, as a space that nurtures the power and poetics of careful thought, the training of attentiveness, and the practices that those exercises yield to make the world more luminous and our collective possibilities more palpable, even in darkened times. It really is like no other place, not just because it has a history, as Will pointed out, that has attended to refugees, to exiles, adult education, and dissidents, always, at its multiple founding moments, but because these issues remain neither furtive nor fugitive in the historic past, but central to thinking the present. What this cumulative knowledge we are acquiring can productively yield as our planet veers into increasingly intense forms of ecological, economic, and social inequalities. When I was interviewing to come to the New School in 2003, I did so hesitantly. It's not so surprising. I was coming from a cushy academic enclave in the more placid Midwest, the dear University of Michigan that I loved. But I took the bait in a flash when the then president, Bob Kerrey, someone very, very good for those of you who know him at reading other people's priorities, challenged and invited me to join him in what he professed would be our joint task. He said, to create public intellectuals for the 21st century. I swooned. I was smitten with the prospect and felt the rush of what it would mean to do so. And I did some of them, in more intensive workshops, more summer research funds for our graduate students, a new summer institute for critical social inquiry that started 5 years ago. But this many years later, I'm not so sure that his challenge did not harbor a mutual conceit. It is certainly not that a public intellectual is not what the New School fosters among ex-students and faculty. We've got lots of them. It's rather that I'm not sure we, the faculty, are craftsmen of young minds, as people so like to say, as so often thought. What's so striking about teaching at the NSSR are the students themselves, some with extraordinarily successful careers behind them, as journalists, curators, teachers, activists, some right out of university, but so many already anticipating what kind of learning doesn't work, how we learn, what is radically transformative about that experience and matters deeply, ethically, and fundamentally in the wider world. For these aren't ordinary students. They are our inspiration. And I don't mean they've necessarily gotten 800 on the SATs or aced every course they took at university and breezed through every hoop of education. I mean that they carried the will and a care to cultivate a sensibility to why thinking matters and how it does so as worldly practice. Consuming knowledge can be a passive activity, but the production of knowledge, the kind that emerges in this sort of graduate seminar that the NSSR so nourishes, is an active, engaged, and formidable task. It's neither performance nor display that gets applauded, though I guess it must in some places, but I don't know. In these seminars, quarters, so much as a sort of vigilant self-reflection about what knowing requires and the collective nature of it. One finds two simultaneous moves that a seminar yields, and it makes it sometimes really uncomfortable. A double helix, if you will, that spirals between a new and sometimes renewed competence and confidence, and as importantly, the emergence of one's often increasingly profound sense of humility and productive doubt about what we know and how we think we know it. Not sequentially, but actually these two happening at the same time, which is why graduate students don't ever sleep. How we move, students and faculty alike, between these two nodes of knowing and not knowing is what opens to new formulations and the identification of the contradictions and the dilemmas with which we live. One might imagine that those who stay longest at the NSSR, the faculty, are those who make it what it is. But I would argue that it's the synergy between those who chose to come to the NSSR as students that provide it with its creative sustenance and its generative ambiance. We as faculty are there not to answer their questions, but to steer them better toward asking those that are worth having answers to. I think of a great graduate seminar as a gifted, almost magical space. What do we do in these seminars? I think the one I'm just finishing up now, about the colonial and post-colonial disorder of things, about how these histories implicate themselves in the present and how they do so. I think of 22 of us from 5 different disciplines: anthropology, history, sociology, art history, Middle East studies, political science, from India, Germany, Sweden, Turkey, the Netherlands, the US, Palestine, Indonesia, huddled together in an always inappropriately overheated or freezing cold room, depending on the season, and you can imagine which way it goes, intervening in turns, pushing the lathe of thought closer to those problems that confront us today, splayed out those that are in the New York Times or those buried in the archives of colonial governance that speak as histories of the present to the sorts of security regimes that permeate our world. Collectively, we found ourselves pushing against histories that refuse the connections that need to be made, as between palm oil plantations in Sumatra, where I worked 40 years ago, and ethanol use in New Jersey. Even the New York Times 3 months ago had a scathing essay making that connection. One of our very coveted professors, Professor Jay Bernstein, I don't think he's here tonight in philosophy, is exemplary of what I have in mind. He came to teach one class of my seminar on fieldwork in philosophy a few years ago to a heteroclite group of anthropologists, sociologists, philosophers from the New School, NYU, and Columbia. And I keep saying these places because, yes, this is the consortium functioning at its best, and reminded us that most philosophy begins with failure, with the questions we can't answer rather than those that roll off the pages and disappear in the dust. Jay Bernstein is one of those teachers that fills out the landscape of thought and then invites his students to make other moves to fill in their landscapes on their own. This is a really incredibly hard task, but it typifies why a degree at the New School is like no other. Why it is that students from all over the globe are constantly asking us if they can come for a month, if they can come for a semester, can they sit in for a week, for a year, for always, to take part in this project that is never quite articulated as one. We invite them, knowing that those coming from these disparate political and social contexts, Germany, Sweden, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, India, will only make our seminars more difficult to circumscribe, will demand that our perspectives stretch. These are infusions that make our discussions more pressing, more radically commensurable, and better. But we have our own richly endowed graduate student body from around the world. Social science jargon, fortunately, doesn't work. We are forced, felicitously, to speak about conceptual matters that are both grounded and conceptually astute and useful. So let's hope that generations more will do the same. Let me conclude. I don't need to tell you how proud you should be of your children, of your siblings, your partners, your parents, your friends who are graduating today, nor to tell you what a privilege it is for us all to be celebrating their achievements. But I'm hoping that they come away from the New School with master's or doctoral degrees with a sense that this is a privilege to be so much more widely shared among so many more people. That what we get the time to learn and think about should not only be shared, but it's our responsibility to be open to other ways of knowing. This is so critical right now, as we partake more broadly, to embrace the potentials and possibilities we've not yet acted upon. Thank you for supporting those for whom you're here in their efforts. We want them to go out, not to praise the New School, but to dissent loudly from the exclusionary policies of a Trump, to make less room for him to speak. We want them to refuse the horrific assaults on Roe versus Wade. We hope they will use their gifts to fearlessly fight to alleviate the inequitable conditions of duress so damaging to our planetary humanity, and just do a little thing to change the world. Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Jim Miller. I'm not getting an introduction. We're speeding things up tonight. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce Camila Andrade Gripp, a former student of mine who is now a senior research associate at Yale Law School. The superb dissertation Gripp wrote is rightly honored tonight with a 2019 Hannah Arendt Award in Politics, the highest honor we can give our graduating students. It's a fine-grained empirical study of an abortive community policing reform that she observed in Rio de Janeiro in 2014-2015. By following the police patrolling a favela for many months, Gripp was able to describe in stunning detail the daily routines of the officers and also their justification for conduct that was often at variance both with the aims of the policing reforms but also with Brazilian law. Okay, let's be honest. It's only a super brave young woman who, for the sake of scholarship, will embed herself with a uniformed bunch of gun-toting guys in one of Rio's most badass favelas. That is why I want to thank Camila for her fearless approach to social research, but also, and especially, for exemplifying some of the core values that animate so many of our students and faculty. Camila, I admire your empathy and compassion, not just for the weak and marginalized, but also for the frightened young men who are given the thankless task of trying to pacify a very dangerous neighborhood in Rio. Camila, I admire your willingness to put in the long hours that lead to new knowledge in your field. Above all, Camila, I admire your readiness to unveil the abuse of power and to help us rigorously understand how ostensibly honorable institutions recurrently fail the vast multitude of people, not just in Brazil, but also in America, under an ornately pompadoured emperor with no clothes. Camila Gripp, please come forward to receive the 2019 New School for Social Research Student Speaker Award.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Professor Miller, for such a flattering introduction. I'm not going to speak to you tonight about my dissertation, and I'm not going to make any jokes because I've heard that's only for tenured folks, and that's not the case. But I wanted to speak to my fellow graduating students about the experience that we've shared here at the New School. Just last week, I met a tenured professor who told me very candidly that he really missed his days as a PhD student. And I was struck by the comment and the remark that followed. As a PhD student, he said, I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I would sometimes go to the movies in the middle of the day. And you can imagine that I rolled my eyes and I was a bit surprised since this is not true of my experience or the experience of my colleagues here. But of course, this romantic idealization of the past is a very human thing to do, and we'll get there one day. But just for today, let's not pretend that this has been all roses. Many of us here have struggled to pay rent, held multiple jobs, heavy teaching loads, and weekend gigs. Many of us moved abroad for the first time and struggled to present our best ideas in an intelligent and eloquent manner in a foreign language. Let's be honest, we all lost some fellowship competition, and we all met now regretful employers who have failed to hire us. We've all struggled and likely shed some tears of exasperation in painful attempts to write brilliant conclusions. And we have waited for those moments of insight when all our readings and all our original research would come together, and like magic, everything would make sense. Except that there is no magic, right? It's just a lot of hard work. It's work that requires persistence, patience, and more support than we often acknowledge. Although at times this might have felt like a lonely path, for us to be here today, it really took a village. It took a lot of mentorship and guidance. My special thanks to Professor Miller here. It took a lot of administrative support. How many times have we written our student advisors in desperation, and how many times have we turned to Suyayi? It certainly took me, and I'm sure it took many of you, a lot of family support, even from afar. It took us colleagues, friends, and a student union that offered cheap beer and pizza. And we've been on years of a bad diet here. Some of us 2 years completing master's degrees, but many of us 4, 6, sometimes 8 years. We grew older at the new school. We moved into different phases of our lives during this time. We found jobs and lost jobs. We met partners and lost partners. We made friends and enemies. Some of us had children. Some of us got married. I found myself a handsome husband who's sitting in the audience tonight. A lot has happened through the course of these years. And because I worked here as the graduate student advisor for 2 different departments, liberal studies and politics, I had the privilege to meet and follow the journey of many of my colleagues. In fact, I've worked in the ceremony many times, but I've never been up here on the stage. And I must say that it was here at the new school that I found the most passionate people that I have ever met. People who are committed to their politics and to different causes, and who quickly unite and mobilize in the face of looming threats. Be it the rise of a demagogue leader, social and racial disparities, gender inequality, or different forms of harassment. At the new school, I found energized colleagues and faculty who aspired to much more than just to make contributions to their field, but who are indeed committed to social change. We all knew this when we decided to come here. When I applied to graduate school in the United States, I put all my eggs in one basket, and I applied to the new school and the new school only, because I knew that this university really resonates with my values and my aspirations. But stepping away from this vibrant community, I'm afraid that in our after-graduate school lives, we will soon get trapped in our daily routines. We now have or are about to have full-time jobs, students to advise, careers to consolidate, and personal lives that might have been neglected for a while. But when we finally arrive at that moment when we will miss graduate school, I hope we continue to be the engaged and passionate people that we have been for the last few years. As we get ready to frame our beautiful diplomas on a wall and begin to forget about papers, exams, and all of our all-nighters, let's also commit ourselves to always remember what it was that first brought us here. Let's continue to be the solid people that we have been. Let's keep turning our values into our practices, putting our money where our mouth is, and if we cannot fight the bigger fights every day, let's find ways to promote change in our daily lives, helping give voice to the unheard, acknowledging justice, and always working ethically. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gripp. Sounds good. We continue our program with the presentation of the Medal to the Living Spirit. About 80 years ago, the great German novelist and essayist Thomas Mann addressed the New School's faculty and students, reflecting on the Nazis' alteration of an engraving at the University of Heidelberg that read, "To the Living Spirit." He noted, and I quote, "There is for the time being no home for the living spirit in Germany's universities. I suggest that your faculty," again, he's at the New School, "take these words and make them your motto to indicate that the living spirit has found a home in your country," end quote. We award the Medal to the Living Spirit to a member of our community for their longstanding devotion to the mission of the New School for Social Research, not necessarily a famous academic or celebrity, but a person whose academic or professional accomplishments, philanthropic support of or service to the university truly demonstrates that dedication. The award has been endowed by one of our trustees, Robert Mundheim. The 2019 recipient of the Mundheim Medal to the Living Spirit is Ilse Melamid. Ilse embodies the spirit of this award. You'll see a short biography of her in your program, so I won't go into great detail other than to say that Ilse was sent from Austria to England in 1939 on Kindertransport, which saved nearly 10,000 predominantly Jewish children during World War II. She came to New York as a young adult and worked at and became an ardent supporter of the New School and provided crucial funding for our graduate students over the years. This year, Ilse gave us a remarkable gift that honored our history as well as her own. She sponsored an original musical composition marking the 80th anniversary of the Kindertransport, which was performed at Alice Tully Hall last month by the Mannes Orchestra. And the day before that performance, we had an entire day of scholarly presentations on the psychology of child-parent separation, family separations during the world wars of the 20th century, and those that are taking place on the southern border of the US today. And a couple of the panelists from that day are here, I'm pleased to say. The event was very typical of this unique institution. It featured an eclectic mix of disciplines and performances from across the New School. Ilse is a champion of just the kind of educational experience imagined by our school's founders. I would like to ask Ilse Melamid to come forward to receive the 2019 Medal to the Living Spirit. Ilse.
Thank you, Will, distinguished faculty, scholars, and family members. It sort of amazes me that I got this award, and I'm not quite sure how to live up to it, but since it has the word living, I have to live up to it with spirit in the future. I don't have to tell you too much about myself, but as an unaccompanied child refugee, I was lucky enough to find a safe haven in England and ultimately emigrated to Australia. And there, as a student at Melbourne University, I encountered a journal that interested me a great deal and sort of spoke to me, Social Research. And that was back, I think the copy I saw was in the 1958 issue. And I didn't realize that so many years later, when I came to live in New York, that my feet would lead me to the New School, and I could see what it was like to be amongst social scientists that had a common philosophy. And I had the opportunity of meeting quite a few of the original emigre scholars. They were very collegial and enthusiastic to be in a free nation. I feel that I owe some actions to the New School in the future, and I look forward to inventing opportunities to bring together people from various disciplines. I think that's what I admire most about the New School, that it offers not only a depth of education, but keeps people having a broad perspective and a sort of Weltanschauung orientation, which I admire a great deal and which reflects my own life experience. And since it's customary to give some message to scholars on their graduation, the thing that is uppermost in my mind is that we are really at a tipping point in either saving or destroying our environment. And I can't say anything more from the bottom of my heart than to urge you to do whatever you can do in big or small ways so that you and your children and grandchildren might survive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ilse. The actual MUNDHEIM Medal to the Living Spirit is a glass piece that is so large that we actually couldn't get it on stage, and we will get it to Ilse. We didn't want to have her carry it home. Thank you so much, Ilse, for being with us. I would now like to ask Vice Dean Robert Kostreva to present this year's awards to outstanding MA and PhD graduates. Please come forward when you hear your name called.
It is my honor and pleasure to congratulate all of you, the 2019 graduates, on your achievement. Today we celebrate your talents, your originality and creativity, your accomplishments in scholarship and the creation of knowledge, your capacity to recognize and face the pressing problems of our time, and your ability to seek and find solutions to these challenges. One was just issued by our distinguished awardee. Some of you came here from across the globe. Some have lived nearby all their lives. Most made significant investments of time and money to attain a graduate degree. We thank you for your loyalty, your commitment, and the sacrifices that you and your families had made. And we look forward to sharing the pride and joy of your many future successes and accomplishments. We congratulate all of the 2019 graduates and would like to recognize special achievement of some of you with our 2019 Commencement Awards. First, I will present the Outstanding Master of Arts Graduate Awards for the class of 2019. The Outstanding Master of Arts Award in Creative Publishing and Critical Journalism is awarded to Emira Dervishi. The Outstanding Master of Arts The Outstanding Master of Arts Graduate Award in Economics is awarded to Gina Parodi. The Outstanding Master of Arts Graduate Award in Historical Studies is awarded to Darren Ertas. The Outstanding Master of Arts Graduate Award in Liberal Studies is awarded to Thomas Peter Ward. The Outstanding Master of Arts Graduate Award in in Politics is awarded to Samar Mohammed Abdu. And the Outstanding Master of Arts graduate degree in sociology is awarded to Khaled Al-Senan. And finally, the doctoral commencement awards, the ultimate prize in higher education in graduate school. The Stanley Diamond Memorial Award in the Social Sciences is awarded jointly to Charles MacDonald for his dissertation, Return to Sepharad, Citizenship, Conversion, and the Politics of Jewish Inclusion in Spain. Please come forward. And the Stanley Diamond Memorial Award in the Social Sciences is also awarded to Katayani Dalmia for her dissertation, Inhabiting One's Skin, an ethnography of body and color in a North Indian city. The Alfred Schutz Memorial Award in Philosophy and Sociology is awarded to Joshua Nicholas Pineda for dissertation, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing, Theory and Critique in the Marxist and Post-Marxist Traditions. And the Hannah Arendt Award in Politics goes to Camila Andrade Gripp for dissertation, New Dogs, Old Tricks, the Inner Workings of an Attempt at Police Reform in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The Alfred J. Marrow Memorial Award in Psychology is awarded to Autumn Winslow for dissertation, Disentangling, Those Times of the Month, Experiences Managing and Making Sense of Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder. The Erwin Rock Memorial Award in Psychology goes to Victoria Lindstone for her dissertation, Speech Production and the Language Neural Network, the critical role of white matter as evidenced by the study of early onset multiple sclerosis. And finally, and for the first time, an award that commemorates a tragically departed faculty member in psychology, the Jeremy D. Safran Award in Psychology goes to Nicholas Fehertoy for dissertation, Master of Youth Domain, on the relationship between trauma, the body, and the sense of agency. The full list of commencement awards is in your program, and again, congratulations to all.
We done with awards? We're done with awards. I want more awards. That means that the exciting moment has now arrived. We are to celebrate the graduates of the academic degree programs of the New School for Social Research. I would like to ask chairs and representatives of each program to introduce the candidates for degrees. The official conferral of degrees will occur tomorrow morning at the University Commencement at Arthur Ashe Stadium, but this event is our opportunity to recognize and show our pride in each and every one of our graduates. As the names of our PhD students are read, you can follow along in the program to read their dissertation titles. Jeff Goldfarb, the Michael E. Gellert Professor and Chair of Sociology, would you please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Sociology?
I have one line, but it's an important one. I have the honor and pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees in the Department of Sociology. Will the candidates for the degrees please stand up and come forward? Where am I supposed to go?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are John Antonacci, Marco Lanier, Ebru Karajit, Jan Mert Kokkerer, Marine Mado, Khaled Alsenan, Ben Weinberg, Monica Salmon Gomez, Aura Angelica Hernandez Cardenas, Maria Granda Vega, Abigail Roll, Galia Kotzi, Yael Arbel, Martina Speranza, Renata Kurtz, Huen Kim, Maya Herman, the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy are Alisa Bogusław, Elizabeth Ziff, Manuela Badia Rajewicz,
Howard Steele, Professor and Co-Chair of Psychology, and William Hurst, Malcolm V. Smith, Professor and Co-Chair of Psychology, please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Psychology. So there you go, there's your one line.
We, Bill and I, have the honor and pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees in the Department of Psychology. Will the candidates for the degrees please step forward?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Anne-Catherine Lenner, Shlomit Okon, Elif Sozer, Denise Kochas, Jessica Fate, Zeynep Guney, Laila Ghazal, Denis Chivril Osturk, Koret Munguldar, Keyana Bonagora, Eldian Veronica Medina Escobar, Kennedy Daniels, Kathy Lawson, Lindsay Myers, Lorraine Aflito, Samantha Pescatore, Rebecca Ridey, Gina Newman, Sophia Makal, Graina Dali, Alexandra Romano, Thomas Shi, Sarah Beranbaum, Jen Sudaka, Saad Al-Nassar, Diane Colarusso, Brittany Marty, Brian Gooley, Brigitte Silta, Deidra Salisbury, Liam Bank, Gregory David Touton, Jack Trevor Friedman, the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Cognitive, Developmental, and Social Psychology are Victoria Lindstone. The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Clinical Psychology are Autumn Winslow, Nicholas Fehartoy, Gillian Wilson, Chichek Erdem, Sarah Kate Astrove.
Jessica Pisano, Associate Professor and Chair, Department of Politics. Would you please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Politics?
I have the honor and the pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees in the Department of Politics. Will the candidates for the degrees please rise and come forward?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Samar Abdu, Daniel Fermin Alvarez, René Gehring. The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy are Yoon Jong Choi, Christopher Harris, Camila Andrade Gripp, Chris Cruz, Mario Marcello Pasca Dalla Porta,
Dmitry Nikulin, Professor and Chair of the Department of Philosophy, would you please come forward to present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Philosophy?
It is my honor and pleasure to present the candidates for the degree in the philosophy department. Will the candidates please come forward?
The candidate for the degree of Master of Arts is Kyle O'Dowd. The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy are Juniper Alcorn, Michael Becker, Caroline Colsant, Joshua Nicolas Pineda,
In case you're wondering about the order, this year we're going in reverse alphabetical order by department. Paul Kottman. There's a logic to everything. Paul Kottman, Associate Professor of Liberal Studies, please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Liberal Studies program.
So I also have the honor and the pleasure to present the candidates for degrees in the Liberal Studies program. Will the candidates for the degrees please come forward?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Thomas Peter Ward, Zuzanna Krzątała, Nicole Messina Rodriguez, Aiden Farrell, Victoria Ortega, Jason Marcus, Benjamin Codres O'Brien,
Margot Bowman, Assistant Professor of Visual Culture and founding co-director of the Graduate Certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies. And Lisa Rubin, Associate Professor of Psychology, co-director, Graduate Certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies. Please come forward and recognize the recipients of the Graduate Certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies.
We truly have the honor and pleasure to recognize the candidates for the Graduate Certificate in Gender and Sexuality Studies.
Will the candidates for the certificate please rise?
Mm-hmm. Or not.
They're just rising.
Yeah. But where's honor?
Rise again.
Oh, there we are. Good
Yeah.
feet. Just say hello. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, just go up the stage.
There's one more. Is that yours? Jeremy Varon, Professor and Chair of History Program, please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Historical Studies Program.
Yes, so like the others, I have the honor and pleasure to present the candidates for the degree in Historical Studies. Will said candidates please step forward?
The candidates for the degree of a Master of Arts are Ella Kuhn, Darren Ertas, Daniel Rodriguez Morales, James Cooper, Victoria Flexner, Grace Song, Nicholas Sweetheart,
Mark Setterfield, Professor and Chair of Economics. Would you please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Economics?
It's my honor and pleasure to present the candidates for degrees in the Department of Economics. Will the candidates please come forward?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Kaimin Zhang, Gina Maria Parodi, Ferdowsi Khan, Juan Pablo Gomez Serrano, Gaspar Cello, Nicholas Adrian Aguila. The candidate for the degree of Master of Science is Juan Paulo Braga, R. Huan Hao. The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy are Jesse William Heyer, Mariangela Parra Lancourt, Ibrahim Shikaki, Baki Guni Isikara,
Thank you, Mark. James Miller, Professor of Liberal Studies and Politics, Faculty Director, Creative Publishing and Critical Journalism Program. Please come forward to present the recipients of the degrees in the Creative Publishing and Critical Journalism Program.
I have the heavy obligation and duty to present the candidates for the degrees in the program in Creative Publishing and Critical Journalism. Will the candidates for the degree please come forward and stand up, get up, stand up for your rights and diplomas.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Emira Dervishi, Morgan Lawrence, Yazan Ashkar, Nine Storm Refsling, Marina Mandel Pedrosa, Edith Perez, Ashley Bustamante, Mary Hosey, Savannah Sitton,
Ann Stoller, the Willy Brandt Distinguished University Professor of Anthropology and Historical Studies, Chair of Anthropology. Please come forward and present the recipients of the degrees in the Department of Anthropology.
Last but not least, I have the honor and pleasure to present the candidates for the degrees in the Department of Anthropology. Will the candidates for their degrees please come forward?
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts are Ramon Luis Constant de Haan, Aida Blom, Ella Hillström, Marike Hisch, Lena Hansen Binti Ali, Do Hyung Myung, Min-Soo Lee, Lane Whitted, the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy are Katyayani Dalmia, Randy Erwin, Charles MacDonald, Alexios Tsikas,
It's been a great honor, a great pleasure working with all of you during your time at the New School. We look forward to continuing our connection with you in the years to come as the living legacy of the New School for Social Research. Congratulations to the New School for Social Research class of 2019. Go ahead, sit down for 1 minute. Sit down. I really want to urge you to join us for the reception. I want to urge you to join us for the reception in the courtyard out the door to your left. This concludes our graduation ceremony. May I? If you could remain seated, sorry. May I ask you to remain seated until the entire academic procession marches out. And now, graduates and platform party, if you will please rise. I declare these commencement exercises adjourned.